Shalom, welcome back. Hope you're enjoying these videos. In this week's Torah portion of Kitzeitzei, it talks about divorce, a topic which is unfortunately very common these days, which was not so common in olden days. It was much more difficult to get a divorce in Jewish tradition in the old days, but today it's much more common, unfortunately. And many people ask me, what is the Jewish view of divorce? Are Jews allowed to get divorced? Are rabbis allowed to get divorced? And the answer is yes. If things are difficult and if it's just too difficult to live together for whatever reason, after counseling and after we've tried very, very hard to patch it up and to see if it can work out, we've gone to counseling, we've gone to rabbis, we've tried everything we can. But if there's no solution, then yes, divorce is definitely an option. And the Torah has a clear definition of divorce. The Torah believes that since we are married under God, before God, we should be divorced before God as well. We are probably the only religion that actually has religious divorce. So that if people are married and they want to get divorced, they need what's called a get. They need a religious divorce, and there's a process how to do that. Without a get, even though they may have a civil divorce, it's not sufficient. They still need a proper Orthodox get, and the rules are very complicated. You need to go to a rabbi who's an expert. If you need help in this regard, I would be happy to assist you. I don't do gittin myself, but I can direct you and I can help you in that regard. How do we know about divorce? So the Torah, in this week's Torah portion, chapter 24, verse 1, says, Ki yikach ish isha, if a man takes a wife, bala, and has relations with her, he consummates the marriage. V'haya, and it comes to pass, im lo timtza chen beinav, if she doesn't find favor in his eyes, he doesn't like her anymore. Kimatza ba ervas davar, he found some unseemly thing in her. Some ervas davar means something immoral. She has perhaps conducted herself in some immoral way. Because of la sefer krisus, he needs to write for her a bill of separation, a document of separation, the nasan biada, and actually place it in her hands. This document, v'shilchal mibeso, and send her away from his house. She goes out from his house for halcha, and she goes for haisa leish acher, and then she may go with another man. She may marry somebody else. So the Talmud says that there is a disagreement between the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel regarding the grounds for divorce. What are the grounds for divorce? Today, irreconcilable differences can be grounds for divorce. Let's see what it says in the Talmud. School of Shammai says a man may not divorce his wife unless he discovers something immoral about her. Because it says he has found something immoral about her, an ervas davar, an immoral thing. She has acted immorally. Maybe she went with another man, she had adultery, or she conducted herself in an immodest way. She needs to have grounds for a divorce. There needs to be grounds for divorce in this regard. The school of Hillel, on the other hand, said he may divorce her even if she just spoils his food. He says, you know what? I don't like the food you made. As the verse could be rendered, because he has found something immoral or another thing about her. He doesn't like her anymore. Why is she spoiling his food? What type of wife spoils her husband's food on purpose? Obviously, a wife that is unhappy with her husband. And this is an indication that something more serious is at stake. Rabbi Akiva says he may divorce her even if he finds another one who is more attractive to her. He wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? You're ugly. I don't like you anymore. What type of man would say that about his wife? What a cruel, heartless thing to say about your wife. If you were to say something about your wife, it says something a lot about the relationship. And it happens that she does not find favor in his eyes, that he doesn't like her anymore. And just that itself can be grounds for divorce. In Christianity, in the Catholic Church, they don't believe in divorce. Their scriptures say that who God has put together, let no man break asunder, or something like that. God put them together, and nobody can separate them. So they do not even recognize divorce. We Jews believe that divorce is an option if nothing else works, if everything else fails. Do we believe that marriage is made in heaven? Absolutely. In fact, the great Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan wrote a book called Made in Heaven. We believe that God puts people together. And the Talmud in Sota says that 40 days before a fetus is conceived, a divine voice, a bas kol, comes down from heaven and says, so and so is going to marry so and so, that it's destined to who we are going to marry. Some say that refers to the first marriage. Subsequent marriages are lefi masav, according to your deeds. Good people marry good people, bad people marry bad people. But the fact is, we do believe that there's an aspect of divine providence dealing with marriage, that God indeed has put us together. And very much. The Talmud tells us that once a matron asked one of the great rabbis of the Talmud, what has God been doing since he split the Red Sea? And he answered, he's been making shidduchim. He's been fixing up men and women to get married. She said, that's not such a big deal. I can do that myself. So she took all of her maidservants and all of her manservants, and she said, you for you, you for you, you for you, you for you, and she set them all up. And she said, that wasn't so difficult. That night there was crying in her estate like never before. Everybody was so angry and mad. They all hated each other. So she realized it's not such an easy thing to put people together. But it is from God. God has done it. God doesn't make mistakes. So if God doesn't make mistakes, why do we get divorced? And the answer is because God doesn't make mistakes, but we make mistakes sometimes. We can make those mistakes sometimes. Perhaps we are not acting in the way we should. Perhaps we're not expressing kindness and love towards our spouse the way we should. Perhaps we are not compromising enough, and we are giving them a hard time, criticizing them too much, and acting really in a way that a beloved husband or a beloved wife should act. And these things cause tension and cause anger and bad words and things like that. God doesn't have anything to do with that. God put two very nice people together. But sometimes our own actions, our anger, and our stubbornness can sometimes lead people to make this marriage not work. And that's a sad thing. So Judaism comes along and says, listen, I know that you're not perfect. No one is perfect. And while God had the best of intentions and God knew what he was doing, it doesn't always work out. It just doesn't work out, perhaps because of the weakness or the fallacies of or character flaws of people. So God says it's not right that you should live the rest of your life and being miserable. So therefore, there is a process by which it is done. And that process is that you have to go to three rabbis. Now, whoever would think to go to three rabbis and three rabbis are going to encourage people to get divorced? So in the ancient world, three rabbis served as marriage counselors. They would meet the husband and wife and they say, what do you want to get divorced for? You two such nice people. Let's try to work it out. And they would counsel the bride and groom, the husband and wife, and hopefully they would prevent a divorce. But if it didn't work out, so then there was a process. First of all, the husband would have to write the divorce document. Now, most husbands don't know how to write these things. So he would commission a rabbi who knew how to do it to write the document, the get. And then he would have to give it over to his wife's hand. Sometimes they're not talking to each other. So there's a process by which he can assign one of the rabbis as an emissary to deliver the get to his wife's hand. She receives it. She has to agree to the divorce. You can't marry somebody and you can't divorce someone against their will. You need to get their permission. So the woman accepts the divorce. She puts it under her arm and she walks away a little bit, and the divorce is therefore final, and she is free to go and marry anyone she chooses. And so is a man free to go and marry anyone that he chooses also. Now, a lot of controversy comes up about men who refuse to give their wife a get, but it works both ways. Sometimes a woman will say, you know what, I'm not going to accept the get. I'm going to punish my husband for being mean or not nice, and I'm not going to accept the get either. So the husband can go out and find 100 rabbis and try to figure it out, or he's stuck. So it can work both ways. Unfortunately, today, more often than not, the husband is the one who's the stubborn one, and the husband is the one who refuses to give her the get. And this is something that the rabbis need to deal with. This is the case of the aguna. In any case, my friends, divorce is not a pleasant subject. And divorce is not something that we recommend, and we try everything we can to try to prevent it for the sake of the husband and wife and for the sake of children who could be traumatized through the divorce of their parents, as we see very often they are. So if you are having marital problems, you should speak to your local rabbi and see if your rabbi can help to make this marriage work and make this marriage get back together again. But if it's impossible, you've tried everything, then the get is your only solution. And indeed, it should be done by a competent Orthodox rabbi, and it should be done properly so that you can get a fresh start in life and start over again. On that happy note, some happy note, I'd like to wish you all a good Shabbos. And candle lighting tonight in San Diego is at 7 p.m. And we are still davening outside. Masks and social distancing are required. We are expecting still to be outside, most likely for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, although we will be davening earlier in the morning. We sent out a major mailing to you all. If you have not received it or we would like to receive it, please let me know. For the first time in history in Chabad of University City, we are issuing admission tickets because we are limited in space and safety-wise. So if you want to come, you need to be registered. And it's really membership only. So if you need to come, you're not a member, we can work that out with you. We don't want to turn away anybody because they can't afford to pay, but we are limited as far as space is concerned. So give us a call or email me at rabbi@chabaduc.org. That's rabbi@chabaduc.org. Or if you got the mailing, send in the card that we sent you with your contribution, your membership dues, and how many tickets you need, and we'll be happy to send them out to you. Shalom, good Shabbos, and we'll see you next week.